Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all here in this new session at TNV Academy. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for today's webinar, Mr. Ajay Bajpai. In this webinar today, Mr. Ajay Bajpai will discuss about calibration and measurement traceability. Our distinguished speaker, Mr. Ajay Bajpai, has done his bachelor's in engineering in metallurgy stream. He is also a lead auditor in ISO 9001, 14001, 45001, 37001, 22000, 27001, 13485, 22301, and 50001 standards. He has an industrial experience of around 38 plus years in field of manufacturing, quality control, quality assurance, design services and technical testing. He has been imparting training to a number of organizations, entrepreneurs and individuals on various topics related to ISO terminologies and their certification and implementation. It was just a brief introduction of our guest speaker today. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Ajay Bajpai. I may request Mr. Ajay Bajpai now to please take over the session and start the webinar.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you all from India time. And it was a briefing done by Mr. Apur for the today's session. Actually, the session of today, earlier on in standard, it was known only as calibration, and calibration. But now with this revision of standard, the main heading becomes measurement traceability in clause 7.1.5.2. The applicability is mainly for the quality management system standard, that is ISO 9001, but it also has a limited applicability for EMS and OSAR, which we will discuss in some other session next time, because all those instruments who are being used for environment measurement system, environment monitoring and safety monitoring system also needs the accuracy and calibration. So to a limited extent it is applicable in EMS, OSAS and various other standards also wherever the measurements are required to be done. Measurement traceability or calibration is linked to the all production activities. Wherever we have got the production activities, there are machines, there are instruments, there are equipments who are indicating various parameters. So those parameters need to be checked by instrument. Inspection activities, it is greatly linked to almost all the inspection activities. For example, when we are having production process and softwares, many times in audits we have seen that softwares are not approved, verified, calibrated, and there are issues because of that. So various kinds of softwares are utilized into production activities. For example, when we are doing the performance testing of the equipments and machines, specifically when we are doing the assembly and final testing in production process. That is the time we try to create the operating conditions. We stimulate to have the operating condition as will be into the field operations by extrapolating or interpolating the results. And these are very much linked to the many softwares. So software also needs validation. How much and how far we will do, we will discuss in next discussion. Incoming inspection. Wherever we are saying yes, these items, these rubber components, these plastic components, or any services from the suppliers are going to be used in our organization as an assembly or manufacturing unit, we have to take the item through the route of incoming or receiving instructions. So there a situation will come where we will either accept the items or it will go for rework or it will be rejected. So how the decision will be taken? Decision is taken by utilization of the requisite or required inspection instruments or machines. So it is very important that yes, we have an instrument which has undergone calibration or measurement traceability. Similar situation comes when we are having in-process inspection. Now the items have been issued from the receiving stores and they are all into the production shop floor. And while doing the assembly and testings and other activities are required by the customers, whether internal or external, the process inspection needs to be carried out. And with the view of this item, this machine to reach the next stage, which is final inspection stage or final processing stage, it again needs to be checked by application of various instruments, checking device, monitoring device, and maybe softwares. So the accuracy of instrument is very much applicable in process inspection. Now the items have passed through in process inspection. So now we are reaching the stage of final inspection. Here a situation will be there where the items, machines or equipments will go either to the accepted stores area or they will be held up for customer inspection at times depending upon the customer contract. But a decision is taken by the inspection at dispatch combination or inspection team alone that they will either accept or rework or reject this particular item which is at final inspection stage. So accuracy is again very much in demand. Now comes the special process. We have discussed in last discussion that a special process is monitored very critically by accuracy of inspections, by checking the accuracy of raw material, by checking the accuracy of machine and instrument, by checking the accuracy of operators. And all these again undergo a checking activity by various instruments because the results will be known after usage after few weeks or few months only. Next comes the customer supplied products and outsourced processes. These two elements also needs to undergo an inspection and testing and checking before they are accepted or before they go to the next process. Sometimes we have seen into auditing situation that particular item which was a customer supplied product, rubber or plastic component which was to be used in the final assembly has been in a doubtful status of inspection. Inspection team thinks it is rejected or rework or or anything is possible. So what they do, they inform the customer that this item is under hold. But when customer comes for a visit with their inspection team, they have their instruments with them because this is a doubtful item as raised by the manufacturing or assembly team. So it happens sometime that those items has been accepted or rejected or accepted depending upon what claim has been made by the manufacturer. Why? Because there was a variation in the testing process, inspection process, and the instruments which were used for the checking of the items because they were not accurate, because they were not calibrated. Maybe they were out of calibration. So this becomes a very difficult situation for the manufacturing unit or assembly to handle when customer says the item is of a different inspection status than what you are claiming for because your instruments are not right to be used. They are out of calibration, they are having errors and so on. Same things happens in outsource process. Vendor claims a different status of the items, inspection status by his checking instruments, and we as a customer claims a different status. So this variation comes because the instruments or checking devices are not accurate enough to meet the requirement of those measurement length, width, tensile strength, hardness, whatever is the parameter of checking. So any question anyone has on this slide? Okay. So we go on to the next slide. Planning is one of the most important activity in case of calibration activity also. Sometimes there has been a feeling earlier when we started doing certification in the 1980 late time and 1990 beginning, that everything has to be calibrated. So there were a lot of debate going on into the auditing team, inspection team, calibration houses, even accreditation boards. So a thought has been coming very clearly that all this depends upon how is the usage of instrument is there, what is the application, what is the performance of that instrument, what is going to be the performance of that item which you are taking, and what is the frequency of decision making. So all this was discussed, and later on the thoughts have started coming that it says few instruments can be there for indication purpose only. Some of the temperature indicators, some of the humidity indicators, some of the pressure gauges, they are not making any addition to the quality of the product and process. They are just to show that yes, they are operating and parameters are for indication purpose only. So there are some instruments which may not need to be brought under calibration scheme or performance traceability stage. They are only for indication purpose. There are some instruments which may not need external calibration. They are having a situation of self calibration, because with these instruments or with this machine, the standard pieces, standard blocks are supplied by the manufacturer. Thereby, before checking the item, one will check the test piece. For example, hardness testing of a material piece or hardness testing of a rubber component. They already have certified test pieces of given hardness, which has been certified and approved by the manufacturer. Also, that can be certified and approved by a third party inspection agency, by third party laboratory, depending upon how critical that reading or that hardness value is going to play in their final product when they are offering it to the customer or dispatching to the customer. So many such instruments, they need to be calibrated before the application. They have test block, test pieces, which an inspector or engineer will check first, and he will find out if it is accurate or if some error is there, positive or negative, that he will add into the reading of hardness or the size or whatever is coming under self calibration status with a test block. He may check it with some slip gauges which are already approved depending upon the dimension of the item which he is going to check. But it is very important that this instrument is used with a test block so that the readings are correct. There are some instruments for which the in-house calibration is not possible to be done, or the manufacturing unit, assembly unit, service industry does not have the facility to calibrate inside the organization. So these instruments, equipments and machines are sent to outside agencies who are having traceability to national or international standards for calibration. And our purchase department is again important in that. When they do a verification and validation of the vendor or supplier or this kind of inspection agency, they take care of this, that they verify that their certificate of national traceability, international traceability is available and is supplied along with the calibration done along with the calibration report of the item. Again, it is very important to have a team of calibration which is trained. whether it is self-calibration condition, whether it is outside calibration, or whether in-house calibration. The calibration team should be trained adequately so that they are aware of the errors, they are aware of the measurement traceabilities, they are aware of measurement technology, and they know what kind of instruments to be used how. Because if they do a wrong measurement, the item unnecessarily will go accepted or rejected, provided it was not to be of that condition. So this training of calibration team is important also, as the technology is changing, design is changing, machines and instruments are being updated continuously. So their knowledge updation is very important. Similar way, we need to conduct the performance evaluation of this inspection calibration team. We do it sometimes the calibration of the inspection team or calibration of the inspectors also. In various situations they are given different instruments, they are given different pieces, and they are asked to develop a measurement or inspection report by using different types of instruments. Then that is compared. So we also call it at times calibration of the inspection team or calibration of the calibration team itself. So this planning of calibration is very important because we before we go further. Any questions here? Okay, we go
No,
further.
sir.
Okay, so we are into now the implementation of the measurement systems and calibration systems. Okay, so traceability needs to be ensured. As I was discussing earlier also, national traceability or international traceability, or at times there are no national or international standards available for particular items or particular process. So that is the time their organization will develop their own self developed traceability and inspection method, and they will naturally document it and they will keep on monitoring the same. Also the status identification is very important. Status identification means this item is under calibration or not, this item is for indication purpose only, this item is under self calibration scheme, this item is by external calibration team. Why? Because when we are going as a first party, second party or third party auditor, particularly in third party auditor case, the time is a very crucial element. We have very less time most of the times into the auditing situation. So if we unnecessarily waste our time into the auditing by picking up an instrument wrongly and trying to find out the national traceability wherever it may not be required. So by looking at the list and the status itself, auditor should be clear that yes, oh, it needs further investigation or not. It needs only the tally to be done with the test certificate, or we need a national traceability certificate also or not. So there are different ways of doing it. Organizations use different kind of tags, labels, and they write all this on the instrument itself. Even the outside calibration agency will put a tag on it. Similar practice can be done when we are doing a calibration, self calibration or in-house calibration. So any instrument needs self calibration, it should be verified before use. We have discussed that. Those instruments which need outside calibration, they need to be sent to authorized approved agencies for calibration and measurement system under control. So this is the time where the inspection team and purchasing team or vendor development team who are going to hire the services of outside agencies should be very clear, alert and active, and they should verify the capabilities of the in calibration agency, inspection agency before they are going to authorize it. They should collect the test certificates of their sample test certificate. They should collect their master calibrated test certificate. They should collect the national or international traceability certificate before accepting them as their approved calibrator or calibrating agency. Because in auditing we have seen sometime that when we are going into further details, we found things are missing. So when we talked of team should be trained enough, who is accepting the calibration certificate in the inspection department or QA department, they should be trained enough to understand all these requirements. If these requirements are not met with, if they have not checked the expiry date of master calibrator, then their own calibration will go wrong. So it is very much a requirement at this stage. We also have a situation where lot of in-house calibrations are being done today into the manufacturing and assembly organization. So it is good to set up a in-house calibration. It saves the time, it saves it also makes the team of inspection and QA/QC knowledgeable. But then it has a few steps which are required to be fulfilled before a in-house calibration can be set up. Uh, Lab which is going to set up the in-house calibration, they have to first of all create a lab which is correct for in-house calibration activities. Means they have to have master slabs, master pieces, the slip gauges, the height gauges, the discs which are calibrated from outside agency, and temperature, humidity, vibration, noise, all this needs to be controlled in the in-house calibration lab, because if these parameters are not controlled, then our in-house calibration results will not be correct. Once we start doing a calibration in-house, then again the training of the team again comes into the picture. They need to be trained to do a effective, good and correct in-house calibrations of the instruments and machines. Then how to handle and storage and the safety of the master instrument. This is very important, because master instruments which is calibrated from outside agency, national or international agency, approved or linked to that, they have to be handled very carefully, because if their accuracy is not kept under control, then when we are doing in-house calibration, our instruments will not be accurately calibrated. The errors will not be what we are noting, because while handling itself, the error has been created into the master instruments. There are instruments which are very sophisticated. If they are not stored in a correct temperature, humidity and safe conditions on soft beds, they may start giving errors. So the handling, storage and safety of master instrument is very important. What to do when instrument has an error? Sometimes when we are getting it from even outside agencies who are doing calibration, they found error, but that error should be under the acceptance limit as per the IS application for that particular instrument and for that particular process. Within that error, they can accept the calibration done, plus minus zero point 0.1, zero point 0.2 or zero point 0.1 kg per centimeter square, or zero point 0.1 millimeter or zero point 0.1 oximeter, or whatever is the requirement of the instrument and the condition of the machine. So with that error, we should be clear. Our master instruments can also have some minimum error, or inside instrument can also have some error, but that error should be known to the person who is doing the inspection or who is doing the calibration. Both are equally important. When a person is doing calibration, he should utilize the calibration value in indicating that on the instrument which he or she calibrated or doing calibration. Similar thing, when you have the usage of instrument while checking the products, the error should be known to you as an inspector. so that when you are making the report, when you are taking the reading, that positive or negative error is counted for, and the value in report is recorded by using that error plus or minus, so that what we are recording is the correct reading by using the error. This is something very, very important. Many inspector organizations fail to do that, and sometimes those errors increase, and the items unnecessarily gets accepted or reworked or rejected. See, rejection or rework, if it is really worth rejecting, then it is all right. It should not be rejected or accepted because of the error in the instrument. Some instruments need adjustment also. They can be fine tuned, they can be adjusted, and the readings can be brought under control. And sometimes they really go out of total control, and they go to rework, or sometimes they are rejected. So who is authorized to adjust, who is authorized to readjust, or who is authorized to reject the instruments or machine because they are all costly? A wrong decision should not be taken. You have purchased the instrument, costly instruments, it has been rejected by mistake. So loss to the company, loss to the inspection measuring system, because there is a cost to calibration and measurement system. So that cost unnecessarily increases. So those handling and responsibilities and authority must be defined very, very clearly. Good. So now we have implemented the measurement system or calibration into the organization, either by outside calibration or self calibration, or by doing in-house calibration. Any questions here? We go to next step. So now we have understood the requirements of calibration and measurement system, and now we have started the action on our planning. So there is a requirement to have a master list of instruments which needs to be maintained with the location, due date, and status of calibration, because that is where the whole monitoring is controlled by the calibration team, the inspection team, and they keep a track by monitoring of the calibration process. Which instruments are coming due for calibration? Which are the instruments where errors are on borderline? Which instruments need adjustment? Which instruments are of self-calibration status, but the master piece which is given to us needs to be recalibrated because it has been more than a year, because the master testing piece was having a validity of 1 year. So all this monitoring is very, very important. We find into the auditing uh, sometimes the instrument which are out of the calibration, having a wrong status, having wrong due dates, and there are non-conformities, and more important than that, the the checking and the readings which were being taken were going wrong. So it is good to have a monitoring of the calibration process and calibration system. Once that is done, what do we do? We need to do the analysis of the data, analysis of records. We have various techniques available with us into operations today: SQC, SPC, statistical quality control, statistical process control, MSA, measurement system analysis, gauge R&R analysis, means gauge repeatability and reproducibility analysis. So here we again use those concepts which I have told into the first slide, that these records needs to be analyzed, and we do a sort of calibration of inspectors who are doing the calibration. We find out in which direction our calibration is going. In case of IATF 16949, MSA, gauge RNR, SQC, SPC are of utmost importance, because in automotive sector parts are moving at a very, very high speed, and their rejection acceptance are in ppms, parts per million. So the instrument needs to be perfect. They need to be correct for their particular application, and instrument should be adjusted, readjusted according to the requirement of the customer. Because in case of automotive standards, customer is very greatly involved into these techniques, and he ask us also as an auditor to look into these things specifically at times when we have meeting with the boards and the AIAG type of organization who are controlling the automotive sector system implementation. And then we come to the corrective actions. Which instruments has been going wrong? Which products have been put to rework or rejection because of the fault of instrument, or the inspector, or the calibration person. So we do a root cause analysis of this. Again, the corrections and corrective actions are implemented, and we improve the performance of the calibration system and measurement system, and reduce the cost. Always the cost cutting and cost control is the talk of the day. It has been always there, and with the competition increasing, it is further needs to be controlled. Many organizations, go away or try to reduce this, or try not to get into the calibration system because they feel it is very costly. It increases the cost of production and inspection and calibration. So from this place, when we do the analysis and when we go to corrective actions, we can bring out the facts and figures. Yes, initially it may look costly, but if we are trying to compare it with the rejection and rework which happens because of the wrong instrument, because of uncalibrated, because of incorrect inspection, because of untrained calibration team, these costs are much higher than the cost of rejections and reworks actually. So these things are important. Further monitoring we do via implementing a effective internal audit system of calibration system and measurement system. We really need to use a technical team for this internal auditing. I have always been telling into auditing that if you use internal auditor from non-technical team for conducting the audit, internal audit of measurement system and calibration, you may not get the desired results because they do not understand the technically of the machines. They do not understand the concept of technical requirements, the errors, the measurement systems, and IS specification to control the whole calibration system. So I have always been making a point that internal audit of this system, calibration system, preferably should be done by utilizing the technical team, the engineers who understand the requirements of instrument, who know how to use instrument, who knows where to use instrument, where the instrument will be for indication purpose only, where it is at a stage where the final acceptance is coming and the item is going to be dispatched to the customer. So those requirements need to understand by the internal auditors who are going to conduct the internal auditing of calibration and measurement system. Further monitoring we do by conducting a effective management review. When we are setting up a initial in-house calibration system, that may need to be covered into management review in details to understand what is the performance of our in-house calibration system. Even if we are not having an in-house calibration system, we may be in a situation where, depending upon the instruments and machines, all our instruments, equipments are going for outside calibrations. So there also it needs to be discussed in details in management review with the purchasing and inspection team. Have we selected the right kind of uh, calibration agencies? Are we ensuring the national international traceability? Is the cost not increasing unnecessarily? Are errors being adjusted or not being adjusted? So these questions should come into and monitored through management review meeting to have a effective and good calibration system, which ultimately be reducing the cost of inspection and improve upon the performance of the product and increasing the customer satisfaction and bringing the what is requirement improvement. When we do all this, there should be improvement seen in the calibration system. We should be comparing what we were before starting a calibration system and where are we today after the calibration system, whether in-house or outside is being implemented. So improvement is the theme of all this standards implementation. So we should see that by doing all this, the improvement is coming into the products, processes, and instrumentation system, and customer is getting more and more satisfaction and less complaints coming. What any questions so far? Sometimes what happens, the calibration has been out of the validity. Instrument is out of the calibration. There has been found errors, and the products had been dispatched to the customers, or it is with the, for example, if you are into a motorbike manufacturing company, from Hero Honda factory, they have gone to dealer distributor. At that stage, we have seen many instances that they are called back. Why they are called back? Because it has been observed that measurements were wrong, records were having errors due to the inspection team, due to the instruments being wrong, due to the calibration being wrong. So depending upon what status it is, sometimes we all have heard that many times the cars are even called back for a particular fault. So this all most of the times happens because of the errors into the inspection, and that too most likely the errors done due to the non-effective calibration or measurement system. If we can make this system strong and robust, further problems will not be occurring, and we will be able to control our inspection and calibration system more effectively. But if it goes wrong and wrong dispatches are there, then we take appropriate action. Either we send our team to the site to correct them, or we bring back the cars or motorbikes or whatever parts we have supplied into the market directly or through service teams. So this is what I had to discuss today. If you have any questions, we can go back and start from here, and you can ask questions if any.
Sir, I have a
Sir, I have
question.
you as a
Okay, sure.
go.
Yeah, one by one, one by one. Yeah, one. Yeah.
Sir, what is the difference between identification and traceability?
Identification and traceability are a requirement of standard which varies from product to process, product to product, and process to process. Identification is simply you identify a product that yes, it is having this part number, so it is identified by part number, or it is identified by its inspection status, rework, rejected, or accepted. Whereas traceability is something from where you can track back to the inspection or production process, which is done by batch code or lot numbers, so that from there you can track back when this item was manufactured, who have checked it, on which date, which year, which week it was manufactured. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. Got my answer. Thank you so much.
Next question.
Sir, I have a question as well. What records are kept to ensure traceability?
Again, it is the mainly into the organization which uses, they use the root card or batch card, or the history cards of the machines and instruments and equipment. So from that batch card, history card, root card, they can get back to the traceability of the item.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Hello, sir. I have a question.
Ah,
What are the benefits of traceability?
traceability is very much useful. Number one, when there is a internal rejection. For example, at the final stage of a piston or a filter, it is found rejected. So then we go into doing the analysis and we track back it to the raw material, or we track back it to the inspector, or we track back it to the instrument which was used in the earlier stage of inspection or production, and from there we can go to the root cause and we can improve upon further inspection and manufacturing process. And in case of external rejection, it is very much critical again, because if a customer has rejected our item and he belonging to batch code EG oblique 235 oblique 2021, and he informs me as a manufacturer. So I will immediately go back to my records and I will look into the batch code which has been informed to me by customer, and I will be able to trace back where the fault occurred and who and what system was responsible for this failure, and so then we can reply to the customer accordingly, and then we can take corrective actions accordingly.
Sir, I have one more question.
Okay.
Which type of companies can exclude this clause?
Exclude. You mean the traceability clause or calibration clause or measurement traceability? Which one you are saying?
Calibration regarding parts.
Calibration regarding part. This may not be applicable to an industry where traceability and calibration is not a requirement at all. But it is not very easy to answer this question unless we know the details of the scope, details of the process, details of the productions. We cannot take a decision whether this should be excluded or not excluded. Okay, so we need to take actual examples of the scope and production process. Then only we can take a decision whether this will be excluded, applicable or not applicable. It is not very simple to reply, before going into more details.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I have got one question from one of the participants. Unfortunately, his net was not working, so he left out. So I am
Okay.
asking on his behalf.
Okay.
He said that why traceability is important for the customers.
For customers, it is very much important, because you see, we have a situation of immediate customer, next customer, final customers, last of the chain customers. So depending upon where our customer is staying, where our customer is falling, he need to ensure to his next customer that yes, whatever items I am supplying to you are having a traceability. We are not giving you something from the sky or from the heavens which is not known to me and which is not under my control. So this item is under my control. Process record, process traceability, inspection record, inspection traceability, uh, date of manufacturing, year of manufacturing, expiry date, all these are under our control. So you as a next customer of mine should get confident that I am in the control of the production process.
Thank you so much, sir. Any more questions from any of the participants?
No, sir.
So we can now come to the conclusion of this particular session. I would say that I cannot express my thoughts that how we have been benefited by the knowledge shared by you on such a vast and complex terminology. I can also say with much confidence that our participants must have enjoyed the context of today's webinar, and it will add value to their expertise and domain of work as well. I thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of TNV Academy for giving your valuable time and accepting our invitation to be the guest speaker for today. I also thank all the participants for taking out time from their schedule and joining us in the webinar. I hope to see you all again soon. Wish you all a best of luck on behalf of TNV Academy for all your future endeavors. Thank you once again.